Growing up, I was convinced I'd be abducted by aliens. I lived in constant, sleep-deprived fear as every strange shadow and every reflection of light on the wall signified the beginning of what I knew would be my end. Logic told me the shadows were just piles of dirty clothes or my coat rack, that the reflections were just from passing cars on the street below. But logic always fails in the face of terror. If it weren't for my older brother Jason, with whom I shared the bedroom, there was a very real chance I probably would have lost my mind. I remember my 13th birthday with the same detached sense of helpless violation as a victim of trauma. The day itself had been fine. Pleasant, even. My parents, who were always caring and supportive, did their best to make sure my birthday was enjoyable. They knew I was stressed. They knew I was anxious. I had never told them why, though. Only Jason knew, and he promised to keep it a secret. After the festivities, I went up to my room to play video games. I had 2 hours to play before lights out. Jason sat on his immaculately made bed, which was in stark contrast to my messy one, and watched, offering pointers as I died over and over again. 2 hours went by quickly, and Dad came in to say it was time to go to sleep. He sat next to Jason on the bed, and let me know he was proud of me. How I had been brave despite having a hard time and that things would get better. He wished me a happy birthday, and kissed me goodnight, switching off the light on his way out of the room. For a little while, I felt pretty good. Like I said, I never told my parents exactly what had been bothering me. They'd ask every so often, but they wouldn't pry. They could tell I was struggling. I heard them cleaning downstairs, comforted by the fact that they were still awake and alert. With a sense of security I hadn't felt in a long time, I drifted off to sleep. After a couple hours, I woke up and glanced at the clock. 11:26. I closed my eyes again. Before I could drift off to sleep, though, I noticed something. The room smelled bad. It wasn't a scent I could identify in the slightest. It was heavy and medicinal, but organic too. It was strange. Alien. My eyelids lifted to the sight of something shuffling towards my bed. I tried to shout and bolt away, but nothing worked. No movement. No sound. Only my eyes could receive my commands. And they stared, bulging out of my skull, as something stood over my frozen body. I knew it had finally come to me. This was the day I had anticipated and dreaded for years. I tried to make out the features on its face. All I could pick up on was hideousness, deformity, a head with its upper left quadrant missing, a mouth with no lower mandible, and a shriveled tongue lolling down to its skinny neck.
Robbie.
It gurgled. It knew my name. It had been studying me, and it knew my name.
No more me, Robbie. No more me. Time to grow up.
Its head came down and touched my forehead with the remains of its upper lip. As it tilted, maggots tumbled out of the cratered skull and landed on my face. They squirmed and tumbled onto my pillow. I felt them writhing against my ears and the sides of my neck.
I'll miss you.
It turned and walked towards Jason's bed. I tried over and over to scream as panic suffused the entirety of my being. The dark world around me blurred, and I knew I was going to pass out. I knew I was going to fail my brother and not be able to warn him before the creature reached him, before I lost consciousness, before I passed into a dreamless morass of black. I hated myself for being so useless, for being so weak. My mother's shrill, panicked shriek catapulted me back into reality. The room was bright. It was morning. My mother stood over Jason's bed, wailing and sobbing, and I heard Dad thundering across the hall from their bedroom. He burst into the room and immediately saw what Mom did. I watched his knees tremble, as if they were about to give out. I didn't move. Everything from the previous night was coming back, and I knew, I was certain, Jason was dead. My big brother was gone. The certainty was overwhelming, and searing tears of pain leaked down my cheeks and onto my pillow. Something wriggled against my neck. I gasped and leapt to my feet. Everything went slowly for the next few minutes. I turned and saw the ring of maggots around my headprint on the pillow. Dad was crossing the room to take me in his arms when he saw the bugs on my pillow and in my hair and whispered,
Oh my God.
He picked me up. He hadn't done that in years. I rode out of the room, clasped within his arms.
Don't look at your brother's bed,
he ordered. But I couldn't help myself. I looked as we exited. One glance was all I needed. Jason's body was on the bed. He was wearing a stained and dirt-encrusted blue shirt. Oh no, I thought to myself as I took in his injuries. The torn lower mandible, the caved-in skull, the desiccated, green-gray skin that was mostly gone. Mom's racking sobs had escalated into hysterical screaming. Dad whispered into my ear as we walked.
Shh, it's okay. We don't know who did it, but it's gonna be all right. It's not your brother anymore. It's just the body he doesn't need. He's still in heaven, okay? He's still in heaven.
I started to shake, and Dad's voice cracked with emotion as he spoke those last words.
He's in heaven.
It sounded horribly, horribly familiar. I closed my eyes and saw a coffin. I saw my parents standing next to it, sobbing. I saw a large, framed picture of Jason in a room full of friends and family. But I also saw the toys I was playing with. And I saw Jason sitting next to me. We played while everyone else cried. He grinned and said, "Don't be upset, Robbie. I'll be here to help you while you grow up. You don't have to feel sad." My Aunt Lindsay came up to me and stood in the exact same spot where Jason was sitting. I remember thinking it was strange she could do that. And then she knelt down and said, "He's in heaven," before walking back to my cousins and uncle. Jason winked at my confused face. Then we kept playing with our toys. "Jason died," I whispered to Dad. He nodded, and I watched as he eyed the muddy footprints from the back door which led down the hall and up the stairs to my room.
You were probably too young to remember, but he loved you so much.
I thought back to all the fun we had in our room over the years, all leading up to video games on my 13th birthday the night before.
You're the same age he was now,
Dad said, and tears freely flowed down onto his beard.
You're all grown up.
Something from the previous night buzzed in my ears. No more me, Robbie. No more me. Time to grow up. And then it clicked. My brother had been dead this whole time, watching over me until I was all grown up. Jason wanted to say goodbye one last time. Upon realizing this, my screams joined those of my mother in a terrible, dissonant chorus.